Hi, I'm Joe Pillar, your pop culture monger, and I'm here with
Rich Sands.
and we are going to talk about documentaries because all of a sudden there's a lot of documentaries and people are going to see them. Rich, take it away.
The last couple of years, documentaries have really stepped more into the mainstream. The last two Oscar winners were very high profile.
Yep.
ESPN's OJ Made in America, which was really a TV series, but they gave it enough of a theatrical
The rules
release.
are tricky with this one.
And then this current year, Icarus, which had debuted on Netflix last summer about the Russian doping scandal at the Olympics and through worldwide sport. And both of those getting a huge platform meant a lot of people saw it. Usually that's a category during the Oscars where when the winner is announced or when you're picking out, filling out your ballot for an Oscar pool, you're like just taking a guess because you have no idea. But now all of a sudden, there's a bunch. Those may have helped spur this new wave.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of high-profile documentaries out this summer.
And I think, too, one of the things that's happening is they're being shown at these prominent film festivals, like the Toronto Independent Film Festival, TIFF, and other festivals. So they're getting reviewed, they're getting buzzed, and there's anticipation. Because I recently saw RBG about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and it was really, really fascinating. I think it's an hour and 35 minutes, and it follows her career and her life, and it's so interesting because of the sexism that she's had to deal with her entire career and how she has fought for the rights of those who have not had people standing up for them in the first place. And what she's famous for is when she graduated law school, she actually, her and her husband met in school, they married, they had a baby, she continued to go to school, all the men got jobs right after graduation, and she didn't. She got offered jobs as a secretary or as a receptionist, and she was a highly educated, qualified lawyer. It wasn't until one of her friends said, "What about Ruth Bader? We should hire Ruth Bader for this." And they championed for her to get her a job, and it's just beyond like aggravating and angry. It makes me so angry to think of what she's had to go through. And I think she's 85 at this point, and she's still going, and she's still kicking, and she's not going anywhere.
And then the other one that you saw was
I mentioned this in an earlier video. I saw the Gospel According to Andre about Andre Leon Talley, the world famous Vogue editor and stylist, and it was very exciting because I happen to know Tamron Hall through my church, and she is beautiful on a Sunday morning just like she is on Today's Show every day when she was on Today's Show, and she's good friends with him, and she got interviewed a number of times, and I really liked it because it talked a lot about struggling with his gay identity as a young man in the South. He was raised by his grandmother, didn't really know his parents that well, and just talked about how his grandmother raised him to do the right thing. And he was accused oftentimes of sleeping around with different people, and he was like, no. In fact, I don't think he's ever had a serious romantic relationship in his entire life. And now he's 68 years old, he's retired from Condé Nast, and he is living his life in his twilight years, and you can see how his whole career was what gave him all of his life. And he was interviewed after the movie came out. A friend of mine that we were with, Jarvis, he saw it and he thought, you know, it's almost as if they finished the movie so soon after he left Condé Nast that if they would have waited 2 more years, it would have been that much more interesting, because this idea of you have your career and then it ends and what goes on, and how he's supporting himself now and the good works that he's doing. And that's what was really interesting, thinking about a documentary, how it's not over when it's over.
Right.
But there's 2 more coming out. What do you think?
so,
And you're really excited about one of them. Well, you like both of them, but the one of them I was laughing about. Because it was the one I wasn't going to see.
Won't You Be My Neighbor, the one about Mr. Rogers.
You have to you have to say, won't you be my neighbor? You can't just say, won't you be my neighbor?
No, I actually don't.
I'm going to say, won't you be my neighbor?
The story of Fred Rogers, and his story is complete because sadly he has passed away. That one's getting a lot of buzz. The trailer is very intense. Again, we're at a time in our country where people are having a hard time having civilized conversation, and that was one of the hallmarks of his show and his whole life, and it really seems genuine too. One of the reviews I read was that it's hard to find anyone who can say anything bad about Fred Rogers because he was...
I don't know. There's one guy that if he was more popular than him, I think he might be able to find something. I don't know. He lives in a big White House in D.C., but we don't want to be political.
To the point about civil discourse. And then coming out on July 6th is Whitney, the documentary on Whitney Houston, which is getting a ton of buzz because it really addresses the dark side of her fame and how hard it was for her to deal with fame, to deal with her apparent sexual orientation. And
now explain that.
well, it's been widely rumored for many years, and this movie apparently really brings it to light that she was at one point in at least one significant lesbian relationship.
And I think what's really just mind-boggling about the Whitney documentary is throughout her entire life, her family protected her personal life. Even when she was having all her drug issues and things, and it was obvious, most of the time they all kept their mouths shut. But this movie just blows the lid off of all family secrets. And what I find a little disgusting about this, actually, is that everyone in this movie doesn't have a job. Like, nobody has a job because they're all living off the money of Whitney. And I think there's something to be said for family loyalty and not giving away all her secrets, but yet you're taking a check from her trust. To me, it's a little disgusting.
The idea that the movie exists bothers you.
The idea that these people are contributing to them, they're living off of her memory and her success, and yet they are talking about subjects that she would not like. If she was alive, she cut them out of her will. She cut them off. So you're doing things that, and who's it helping and who's it serving? Are they donating money to some drug rehab center? Are they doing something with the Trevor Project to help young women come out? What is it they're doing? And I think all they're doing is getting their 15 minutes of fame. And that, to me, is disgusting.
Okay, well, I can see that. I do want to see the movie, but...
Oh, I'll go see it, but I'll go we'll go on a Tuesday for $5 because I have the AMC Stubs card.
So anyway, documentaries are definitely having a moment. Don't be surprised to see if at least 4 of the 5 movies on the ballot next winter are these movies that we just discussed, which would be very interesting because, again, for the first time, it would be movies in a category that doesn't get a lot of attention that many people in America will have actually seen.
What they do is they have to watch all these movies and they whittle them down to like 15 and then they get down to 5. And maybe 8 or 10 years ago when they did the documentary called A Piece of Work about Joan Rivers, she didn't make the top 15. And that was a huge controversy because it was one of the first ones that were about a celebrity that was living who participated, and she gave them carte blanche. She did not say take anything out. You saw Joan Rivers in a completely different light, and it was highly well reviewed, and it did well at the box office. And if you're thinking about how do we get attention for a quality piece of work, you nominate a piece of work and you think Joan Rivers is going to go on stage. That's like when Jennifer Lewis gets nominated for the Emmy. I want to watch to see what they're going to say. So hopefully they've learned their lesson and one of these guys can win.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Watch this space and we'll keep you posted. And remember, you heard it here first.
This is the most PBS thing we've done, right?
Because of Fred Rogers?
And documentaries and stuff. It's the heaviest. I feel very deep now. Anyway, follow us on Facebook on Pop Culture Monger and subscribe to Pop Culture Monger on YouTube. And
leave us some comments. Let us know what you think about these documentaries and what else you'd like to see and what you're looking forward to.